Good afternoon and welcome to Archives Live. I'm David Peters, head of the OSU Archives Department. We are starting our Archives Live summer tour today, as we will hope to tour several locations on the OSU campus throughout the summer. This afternoon we are in the new home of the Spears School of Business. During this recent transition to this facility, we worked with many of the academic and administrative offices in the Spears School to help transition some of their permanent records, which they didn't need, to the archives. These are records we consider enduring value, and so they worked with us to transfer items they didn't need to the university archives. We'd like to work with any department on campus as they consider moving records. We can help with both records transfer, records destruction, and then records retention. So please contact us if you have records issues. All right, this month on Archives Live, we'll be talking about some brief history of the Spears School of Business. And we'd like to have you type any questions you might have into the comments section below, and then we will try to answer them. The Spears School, or what was originally called the School of Commerce, started in 1914, about 25 years after the college had been established. And so they were one of the younger schools. Ag had been started, engineering, some of the other colleges, but Spears was one of the fastest growing colleges when it was established as the School of Commerce. Beginning in 1898, they had their first and at the time only faculty member, Georgina Holt, who was an Irish immigrant, transfers to Stillwater. Actually, she came to visit her brother, who was a jeweler and had a watch repair shop in Stillwater. But she was the first instructor in the, I guess it was a department. She offered classes in stenography, for those who are unsure what stenography is, that's shorthand, and also classes in typing. And so she was a one-person faculty, and those are the first courses that were offered. She stayed on the faculty until 1903, at which time she married someone that many of us are familiar with, Lowry Lehman Lewis. Dr. Lewis was the head of the science and literature program here as its dean, and also served as an acting president for a short time. So the first faculty member in the Spears School, then known as Commerce, was Georgina Holt. So let me see if we have any questions here. So were there any business classes offered before the School of Business was established? So yes, starting in 1898 with those first preliminary stenography and typing classes, they had at least one instructor each year for the first 10 years, and they began to offer increasing numbers of courses in basic things like bookkeeping, typing, writing, just the basics of clerical efforts that would support the burgeoning businesses and communities around the state. We're beginning the slow transition from an agricultural economy to a more of an economic business economy in small cities and towns. And people are needing that kind of clerical support locally. And so the courses being offered reflect those changes over time within Oklahoma. And these are occurring across the nation. So they offered a number of different basic classes beginning after about 1905, 1906. There was a program, a one-year program, where you took 2 semesters worth of classes and you got kind of a temporary certificate or certificate of degree completion that you'd taken these classes and then could go out and work for local businesses. So basic classes, mostly clerical early on. By 1912, there is a Department of Commerce, and they have a principal for that department. In fact, I have some pictures here. Let me show you real quick. The first picture I have here is that's Georgina Holt, later Mrs. Lowry Lehman Lewis, and she was the first faculty member or staff member to begin teaching instruction at what became the School of Business. And then the second picture I have here, this is the principal of the School of Commerce. This is R.A. Coverdale, and by this point he had an assistant, so we were up to 2 individuals. And it's about 1912. Prior to this time, most of the classes for the school or for the department were held in Old Central. But beginning in 1912, with the construction of what we know as Gunderson now, but it was the second engineering building, the School of Commerce was moved to the first engineering building. In this picture here, it's right at the center of the picture, just to the left of Old Central. And so by 1912, the secretarial classes are taking place in this building. It was the old engineering building. And by 1914, with the official establishment of the School of Commerce and Marketing, all of the classes were moved into this first facility. So those were the classes before it became the School of Commerce, and the first classes offered when it became the school. So what other questions do we have here? From William, thank you. What facilities has the School of Business called home? So initially I mentioned Old Central. It was home for a lot of different areas on campus. But then beginning in 1914, what they did is they moved into the old engineering building, became known as the Commerce Building at that point, and they occupied that location. Let me skip ahead here until they moved into Morrill Hall. When Morrill Hall's administration moved to what we now know as Whitehurst, the School of Commerce moved into Morrill. They continued to grow. Like I said earlier, they were one of the fastest growing colleges on campus, and they expanded and needed, in addition to Morrill Hall, what we know as the Bartlett Center now, next door. And so they, for a number of years, were housed in both Morrill Hall and the Bartlett Center. It isn't until the early 1960s, and I'm skipping ahead here several, I think we're going to get to when they built the School of Business Administration building. It was the old business building for many of us who were here in the 60s, 70s, and 80s until this facility was built this last couple of years. But the old building, but it was built in the 1960s, and that was the home then for the School of Business Administration, or the Business College, until they moved here to the Spears School. But they had a dedication of that facility, and I think it's kind of interesting that that's been roughly 50 years ago that building was established as the new home. We have a few pictures from the groundbreaking ceremonies for that facility. And then for those of you who aren't familiar with the School of Business Administration building, here's a picture of that building as it looked soon after it was completed. And one of the things it was known for was its flexibility. It could be arranged in a variety of different ways. The walls could be removed and transitioned, but also was known for the number of art objects. It was one of the first facilities on campus to include a number of art pieces in it, and so they were trying to expose people to cultural and artistic areas also. So fascinating old building, but they have a wonderful new building here. And so if you have a chance, please stop by and take a look at this facility. It's quite amazing. I think I've shown you, well, let me go back a little bit. Here's a picture, in case you're interested, that I've got up right now. This is the commerce class from 1912. And what's interesting about the School of Business, School of Commerce, is that it was one of the colleges that had the greatest balance in ratio of men to women. You know, ag and engineering had mostly men, human sciences, home economics, and education had mostly women. But the business school was really one of the colleges that had a nice, better ratio of men and women. And that's reflected in this picture. The women are on the front, and then the men in their cadet uniforms are on the back, but that's from 1912. Let's see, then I've got a picture here. This is the faculty, the whole faculty for the college. This is, I think, in the 1920s, but you also have a nice blend of men and women on the faculty and staff for the college. And so they were really kind of ahead of the norm in that way too, both a balance in their student body and a balance with their faculty and staff. So, all right. Got another question here. When did the School of Business become the Spears School of Business? So that occurred in 2004. It was named for William Spears. Mr. Spears is a graduate of this fine institution and developed a reputation and expertise in efficiency, energy efficiency for facilities. And Oklahoma State University has taken advantage of that expertise. He's been very gracious in providing support and helping us become more energy efficient. they provided support then for the college and for the school, and so the facility was named for him in 2004. Thank you for that question. Okay, let's see. I don't see anything else right away. I might mention a few other things. I'm kind of going through the pictures here. We'll let that go. We'll let that go. I think we have time for one more question. What degree programs were offered when the School of Business was first established? Thank you for that question. So when they first established the school, there were really 3 tracks for people to go into. One was the secretarial track, and that's where they learned shorthand, typing, bookkeeping, basic kind of clerical skills. Then there was a second track for, we call probably economics now, economic sociology. And there was used to be a rural sociology that grew out of another college, but those were combined in economics and sociology. And then the third track was business administration, and those were professional classes. And today we call them things like marketing, management, and those kinds of things, accounting. And so that was the administration part of it. So there were really 3 tracks for people to go on early on with the school. And most people, early on at least, went through the secretarial tract. And so that's where we got a number of graduates. And that tract was active through the 70s and into the early 80s. But I think it's no longer available for most people. So, all right. I don't see any other questions or comments. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today, for asking questions and helping us share the story of Oklahoma State University. I would like to thank the Spears School of Business for their help with this production. Please check out all of our Archives Live videos and videos on OkState TV and YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we'll hope to see you again next time on Archives Live as we continue our summer tour.